Milwaukee Panthers season comes to an end in Detroit to the Titans, 84 to 63 in the first round of the Horizon League tournament. This is the Post Panthers breakdown brought to you by the WM Post. I'm Jack Loudy, sports editor at the Post, and let's get into it. And this game was not pretty to watch. After the first 5 minutes, Detroit Mercy held the advantage and they just coasted after that. It was tough sledding. Obviously, the injury bug hit Milwaukee throughout the whole year, including this game. That's the first thing you think about this team projected to finish first in the Horizon League at the beginning of the year. And then ever since then, just injuries kind of tainted the whole season, whether you like it or not, unfortunately. And really, Detroit Mercy just had more tools, more guys to create something than the Panthers did. Like Detroit Mercy, double team Chandler Jackson, who's been the go-to guy for the Panthers the past couple of weeks, to end the season. But they threw bodies at him, didn't let him get going. Panthers did not have enough creation or offensive, acumen to really hang in there with Detroit, who played a fast game. I feel like the Panthers played into Detroit's hand, playing fast, might have been a game where slowing down the pace, make it as, tight as possible, as fewer possessions, especially with the guys missing. But Detroit kind of took advantage of the speed, no doubt. And credit to Detroit, Mark Montgomery, what a turnaround Detroit Mercy has been from a couple of years ago winning like one game the whole season to being the 3 seed. And watch out for Detroit Mercy. They might win the whole thing. I would not be shocked. And obviously they're a very physical team as well. London Maiden off the bench, 5 for 5, 12 points. You know, Faison Fields didn't have his greatest game. Obviously, he's been fighting injury the whole year ever since he aggravated his ankle. Feels like every game when he's come back, he's re-aggravated it. But yeah, the Panthers just did not have it. It was too much. It was too much. Legend Jeter, TJ Nadeau, and of course Lovejoy, Mr. 313, Elder Spratt also got going as well. There was too much available for Detroit Mercy, not enough for Milwaukee. Detroit Mercy sweeps the Panthers this season in the regular season and postseason, so they won all three matchups between the two teams. Yeah, but if I had to choose a player of the game for the Panthers, I mean they're it's kind of grasping at straws to pick a positive or a player of the game, but say Sekou Kone off the bench, he had a lot of flashy dunks, whatnot. They ended with 13 points and 9 rebounds, some of that, of course, in garbage time when the result was in hand, but you know, he has all the raw talent in the world to become a player. And if he stays in the Horizon League, he can really be a freak of nature, refine his game a little bit more. He can be a problem. And yeah, the Panthers really miss Amar Aguilar. Say what you will about his shot selection, but he was your leading scorer ever since Seth Hubbard went down, throughout the season at around 12 and a half. And the Panthers needed another guy who could do something on offense. Stevie Elam, capable shooter, whatnot. He had a drive, he had an and one, but Panthers were severely lacking, a physical guy who can drive to the lane, draw a foul, slow things down, hit a three. The Detroit really honed in on whoever Milwaukee had out there. Simeon Murchison came in for a minute and wasn't great. Panthers lacking size against a big Detroit Mercy team did not help. And the physicality was there throughout for the Titans. It felt like I don't know how many and ones they got, but it felt like a lot. And in the second half, the Panthers got the offense going. They ended up with 39 points, but every time the Panthers scored, Detroit, immediate answer on the next possession. So they could never really chip into the lead. Like once it was halftime, that it was they just coasted. They just coasted throughout the game. Josh Dixon came in and he scored a bit, but again, like once you get in such a big hole and you keep giving up buckets on the other end, there's only so much you can do. He played an all right game. Isaiah Dorcius, who I like his profile as a point guard, able to get to the lane and good guy at finding others, especially down low, good dump off pass. But this season, up and down, he had few games where he was Mr. Clutch, taking big threes, whatnot, but kind of was in and out of the rotation. Josh Dixon, at the Milwaukee Showcase, the game at the Pfizer Forum, he put up like 20 something points, almost 30, and I was like, all right, watch out for this guy in March. But then, he was a freshman this year, so you expect ups and downs, and he no doubt had ups and downs. At the end of the year, kind of faded out of the rotation when Isaiah Pippa White kind of had a few good games, especially defensively. But Isaiah Pippa White, offensively from a scoring perspective, like that's not his game. But I mean, he had a game with 13 assists, but the turnovers kind of added up. But looking at a positive, you could say turnovers only six on the night, which is admirable. Also, offensive rebounds. The Panthers, they were able to attack the offensive glass at a solid clip. But yeah, Detroit, they always had the edge in this one. Like it was there was no doubt about it. What if is just that's the that's the two-word phrase you can say about this season in retrospect. Just what if Danilo Jovanovic, Seth Hubbard, John Lovelace Jr., Faison Fields, he was out for a month. Stevie Elam out for a month in the middle of the season. Like one of the most injured teams in all of D1 basketball. So yeah, this is a fitting end to the season, unfortunately. Aaron Franklin played a good season, a guy who wasn't supposed to play a big role on this team this year, but he ended up being the heartbeat of this team, as Bart Lundy's talked about in plenty of interviews. But yeah, Detroit Mercy, watch out for in the rest of this tournament. We can take a look at the bracket. Green Bay, what a turnaround for them, winning 4 games last season. Now a respectable 5 seed. And they will take on Northern Kentucky, who upset Oakland. Oakland, I believe, rushed back in that one, but were edged out by 1 point. So that will be a fun game. And then Wright State, TJ Birch, very very good guy. And then Detroit Mercy to take on Robert Morris. That should be a fun. Anything can happen here. I mean, it's surprisingly horizon gonna horizon. So who knows? But yeah, the Panthers, unfortunate season. What if is the theme. And yeah, some things to think about for next season. What guys stay, what guys leave, who develops. Can Sekou Kone really take that next jump? Maybe bulk up in the off season, especially going up against like a team like Detroit Mercy, who were able to. He's not the biggest frame, but he's a talented shot blocker, especially. But those bigger guys down low can get the best of them in the post. So yeah, we will see who Milwaukee can retain and who they bring in. But more health should be the main focus and hope for the next season. Because if you can't stay healthy, like with what happened this year, you're not gonna you're not gonna be able to compete like we saw. So yeah, Panther season comes to an end, unfortunately. But hey, we'll see what happens next year. We'll see what happens in the off season. Yeah, post Panthers breakdown. Thank you.